I bought my first triplex at 20. That triplex I ended up parlaying into this 24-unit apartment building that I currently own.
You're listening to the Real FI Podcast, where we discuss time-tested tricks, techniques, and strategies for pursuing financial independence today, so that we can enjoy a better tomorrow. Financial independence isn't about getting rich quick. It's about cultivating a foundation to grow financially, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Let's figure out how to kick the 9 to 5. Here are your hosts, Patrick and James.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Real FI Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McGrath, with my co-host, James Rippion. How's it going, James?
Good, man. And I'm not going to give you a hard time for making us do a take two on this one, but I think we're going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, take twos are always the best. So we got our guest here, Chantz Ireland, and he's a syndicator, real estate investor, and we're really looking forward to, helping everybody out today. So James, take it away.
Yeah, man. Thanks. So Chantz, we always want to get our guests to get a flavor of what you do and what your background is, and kind of just tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to be where you're at now. So why don't you wind back the clock a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, hey, first off, thanks for having me here. I've been looking forward to it. I got into real estate kind of through my family. My dad was always into real estate. And so probably from 15 to 20, like all I did was real estate. My dad told me what assets and liabilities were. And I was just loving the idea of being able to make money kind of while you sleep, or this whole passively, or just not having to go to work to do it. And then one day he owned a triplex out here in Marysville, Washington, and he had to sell it. And I was 20, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. All I know is I want to jump in. And I kind of I had been listening to Bigger Pockets to that point, and I just kind of took the leap. And I bought my first triplex at 20. That triplex I ended up parlaying into this 24-unit apartment building that I currently own. Just kind of took the leap, and I bought my first triplex at 20. That triplex I ended up parlaying into this 24-unit apartment building that I currently own. And that was more of a business partnership and not so much a syndication. But yeah, no, we've been growing pretty good, and that's kind of how I got started.
Wow, that's great. So it all started back with your dad doing real estate. So, were you at properties, cleaning, painting, doing all that kind of stuff? Was he breaking down the numbers for you? Give us a little idea of what that looked like.
Yeah. So I don't know if a lot of other people's parents are like this or have had the experience, but he was more of a bought the property and didn't really care about the numbers. It's like rent it out. If it makes a payment, it makes sense, and you're going to make money in the long run. And that's kind of what it was. Tenants would move out. We'd go over there and wipe the walls down and paint it. We'd be painting over, light switches and doorbells and all that. And just like the typical, what everyone thinks of. And that was kind of how I got introduced to it. I know his payment was $2,000 a month, and he had 3 units. And so he rented them out to where it was perfectly $2,000 a month, didn't want to make any money. And it was like, man, if you went in there and put good finishes on everything and charge like more of a premium and attracted a better tenant, everything would work better all around. The building would be worth more. You'd have less headache. And so it was cool getting to know one side of real estate and then kind of taking it the way that I have.
So looking back on that though, you put this in the context for your new investor who's trying to get into real estate now. And we were having this conversation a little bit earlier. They have the tendency of overthinking it. They want to dig down into every single expense that could possibly occur, every problem that might pop up. They get bogged down in the details, paralysis by analysis. Looking back at what your dad did, though, did it work out for him? Like just jumping in and kind of bull rushing into it?
I would say that in the long run, it has definitely worked out with him. And it might be a lot to do with our kind of Seattle market and everything blowing up over the last, 10 years. And I know him and I know his personality. I know he would do the same thing again today, but in the markets that I've turned to, the Midwest and everything, it's like, you can't buy something overvalued and under rent it and then make money in 10 years because that property is going to be worth the same unless you force that appreciation. And so, yeah, it's just a transition for me. Definitely.
Wow. That's That's great. Your dad sounds like the kind of guy that I'm looking to buy from in
Yeah,
my area.
yeah. I've got 16 units under contract right now. We're supposed to close tomorrow on them. And we are buying from a buyer who, I mean, I've asked every single day for rent rolls and expenses, and he just will not send them. And then today, the agent actually asked me to send them over how much the deposits are. And it's like, what, I could pull up one thing on my 24 unit and tell you exactly how much they are. And you want me to go through all of your leases and pull these numbers out for you? Like, I mean, it's just a different mindset, but that's where you can really find, the best deals.
That's where value is.
Yeah, it's exactly where value, if you can get it under value. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that triplex that you said that you parlayed into, this first big deal that you got, did you 1031 exchange it? How much did you make off of it? Can you break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah. So I ended up buying this building for 305 with a first-time home buyer's loan, which is something I'm trying to teach to a lot of people around me, and a few things my friends have done. And basically, you can use your FHA loan. You get into a triplex at 3.5% down. I think I had to come up with like 11 grand or something, and it was gifted to me. And so I didn't have to come up with anything. But after, I think it was 4 years, the building had doubled in value. The market blew up. I had all this equity. And it's like, then I was looking at the return on equity that I had. And as your equity increases, your return goes down because your return on equity. And so then I kind of was like, what do I do? Like, what's my next step? Do I want to refinance and then raise my payment and go buy a bunch of more buildings around here? Or do I want to buy an apartment building? And I knew I kind of had this growth mindset of like, let's get more units. Because if you $50 increase over 3 units is $150 over 10 units, it makes more sense. And so back to what you were saying, I did do a 1031 tax exchange. And it was my first experience with it. And I loved it. I mean, it definitely puts you in this time crunch of find something right now and close on it within this time, or you're going to pay. I mean, I think I walked away with like 260 grand, and I would have paid 30% in taxes. And so I had a huge incentive to find this apartment building. And I did. I found a 24 unit for 1.3. I ended up putting 260,000 down, and then 30,000 or 100,000 came from 2 partners, and we were able to close on that 7-8 months ago now.
So there might be some people listening that don't know exactly what a 1031 exchange is. Can you get into the detail of that, how it works? You're mentioning how there's a tight time constraint with making sure that everything processes properly. Give us a little bit more background on how the 1031 works.
So basically, if you have funds in a rental property or you have equity in there, and you want to go to sell it and not pay gains on it, you can just roll it over into similar or like kind building is kind of the terminology they use. And really that means if you want to go from a triplex to a 5 unit, or a single family house to a 6 or 7 unit, you can do that. And it's really kind of loose fitting. So I mean, you can use it continuously, and it's a way to just really defer taxes again and again and again. And once we get into net worth later, this 260,000 that I rolled into this building is now worth something like 500, and I can just 1031 all of that money that this other money made into an entire other building, and just have an asset that's twice the size with the same amount of money I started with one triplex. Yeah,
I think the biggest thing with the 1031 exchange that I found out, because we actually sold 2 single family properties at the same time and 1031 exchanged them into our 10 unit apartment building.
I don't know how to make this stop.
Phone's ringing off the hook.
I have no way to pause it. I don't know how to do it.
The Zillow leads flowing in there.
The Zillow leads call. That is so funny. Yeah.
That's hilarious. What I think the biggest thing with the 1031 exchange is that 45-day window to identify and then 180 days to close. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest thing. So you have 45 days, you can identify 3 properties, and then you have 180 days from the time you close, and those funds go into escrow to close on the other deal. So you have 6 months total, but it definitely gives you a time crunch. And the funds have to be held by a custodian, which usually is a title company. Did you use a title company or a third party?
I think I used a third party, and I really kind of like that part because the money never hit my account, so I never had that huge feeling of trying to spend it on something. So,
Exactly. I know how that works.
So what time period did you do that 1031 exchange? Was that recently?
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good. Was that recently, or was that a year or two ago?
So the 1031 I did back in, I want to say it was last January, maybe. It's been 8 or 9 months. I haven't owned the property for a full year yet.
Okay. So you did it during COVID. The reason I'm asking, because how hot the market's been, it's been really difficult for buyers to get into new deals. If you had to do it again in this market, is it a time crunch, especially in this market because of how scarce properties are to find?
I mean, if we want to speak to how overpriced properties are, we can definitely do that, and how hard it is to find a good deal. And so the one thing you don't want to do with the tax exchange is buy a bad deal because you don't want to pay taxes, right? And I've heard a lot of people talk about that on podcasts. And I've even heard of people being like, oh, I'm going to pay 200,000 in taxes. Why don't I overpay by 100 grand on this property? And it's like, there's something there. There's a strategy there, sort of. But it is hard to find good deals. And so you really, before you sell your building and know how much money you have, you want to get, you want to have your property lined up. So if you're going to sell here, you want to be looking 4 months before and then just be ready to go. I mean, you should be able to sell that house and have that property identified right away.
That's exactly what we did. 100%. That's definitely the way to go. So, tell us about what market you're currently in right now, how many units you have, kind of what that looks like overall, and also kind of break down what that means to you financially and towards your, financial independence goals.
So right now I've got 25 units, if we count the one I live in, so 24 rentals. They are all in Illinois and 2 apartment buildings that have 12 units each. Like I was talking about earlier, I do have 2 8-unit apartment buildings in the same area under contract. And those are supposed to close tomorrow. I think we're getting pushed out to next week. But those are in Illinois. And the reason I moved out into this market is that there's multiple, but I mean, the price to rent ratio in these Western markets or Midwest markets is huge. I mean, you can buy these $100,000 houses that rent out for $1,500 and you're meeting the 1.5% rule or way over the 1% rule. And it's just like in Seattle, you would never find something like that. Our duplexes are trading for 600,000 out here. And I mean, in that market, you can get a duplex for 60 grand. So, wow. I mean, here is more for sure, but it's like, and the appreciation. So over there, you're definitely trading off the appreciation. But once you get into these larger apartment buildings, the value of the building is really heavily based on the amount of income it brings in and the amount of expenses you have. So when you can, like these 2 8-unit buildings, we paid $309 for one and then $350 for the other, and they both bring in $5,000 a month, which is great. But we think the rents can be raised by like $50 a unit. And so when we're said and done, this property we're paying $659 for in the next 6 months is going to be worth closer to $950, and we're going to walk away with 250 grand. And it seems so difficult and elusive, and then you're like, literally all you're doing is bringing the units up to the market rent and then reselling them based off the new evaluation. And it's easy. It's almost easier than like flipping it. It's super simple, and it just takes getting into that mindset to do it and realize that you can make good money like that, right?
Well, especially in the Midwest, when you're not dealing with massive appreciation, it's hard to be a savvy technical investor with just one unit, because you can't get the forced appreciation by trading at a better cap rate and improving your expenses and income and getting the value up. You can't do that forced value appreciation.
Yeah, you need to be over 5 units for sure. Because I mean, anything under 5, you get into that just FHA loan or conventional, and then it's just going to go solely based off the market. Right. Anything over 5, I mean, I try to shoot for way higher than 5 just so I'm out of that league a little bit. But I mean, once you get into the 10 or 15 and you can raise those by 50 or $100 each, I mean, you're talking a good 150 grand just by raising the rent $50 per unit. So
exactly. We were able to go in right away on the one we just purchased and raise rents. Everyone agreed to a $200 a month increase without doing anything on a 10-unit building. You know, you're talking $400,000 within the first 2 months. So it is amazing on what you can do. Is the plan for you guys to refinance and pull that cash out, or are you guys just going to sell and move on to the next?
So we've been talking about what we're going to do. And I just had a Zoom meeting about it, I think last week. And we were going to sell, but we wouldn't be able to pull as much money out. And then we're like, well, if we refinance, we can pull 90% of our money out and return it, which is huge. Cash flow shoots way down, but your return shoots way up because you have equity in the building. But then you get into the position where it's like, you know, do you really want to put yourself at this much leverage? Or what do you want to do? So I think we're probably going to refinance it 20% into the building and maybe just put like 150, 200 grand, which is still a good return. I'll get enough money back to go and buy, you know, some other buildings and actually have something to work with. But the main idea is just to keep reusing the same capital you have and not putting yourself in an over leveraged position.
So what does financial independence mean for you? I mean, there's this big concept that people look towards to either, you know, retire early or to have it measured in some way, whether it's dollars, time, or something else entirely. What does financial independence mean to you, and how are you kind of measuring that and thinking about it in the big picture?
So I just quit my full-time job that I had out of high school at Boeing 2 weeks ago, and I was making $4 to $5 grand a month take home. I mean, it was more on taxes, but take home, and that was my first kind of, you know, milestone of like, this is how much I need, and then I can just quit and travel the world. And now I'm there, and I'm making that, and it really, I thought it would be way more. It's freeing, don't get me wrong, but now I have so much more time to do so many other things, and then you start to realize like $4 to $5 grand a month is really like a starting point. I mean, if you can do that, there's no reason you can't get 40 or 50 a month just by repeating a process you've already done a few times, right? And so in the beginning and currently, I mean, right now, 4 to 5 grand a month is great, and I'm not upset about it. But my longer term goal is like 20 grand a month in passive income. And then I'd love to work my way up to 20 grand a month in active income through everything I'm doing. And then I would love to just take all that money. And I mean, our goal is to end up buying 100 units per year for the next 10. So once I can get to 40 grand a month, 40, 50 grand a month, then we can actually, you know, start showing investors what we're doing and really grow quickly.
So does it feel like to you, after you start tackling these base steps, you got to the 5,000, 45,000, and then you're going to get to the 20 passive and then 20 active. And then it sounds like after that, it's really going to start to scale and grow. Is your path, does it feel linear, or is it almost like exponential and how it's growing? Because it sounds like you got way more that develops down the road as well.
Yeah, I would say definitely exponential. I mean, when I first owned my triplex and I was making $400 a month in cash flow extra, I was stoked, super excited. And now, I mean, if we're going to go buy buildings and we don't make $3 grand a month passive and cash flow off it after all expenses, it's like we really consider passing on it or seeing, you know, if our money's better somewhere else as far as opportunity cost is concerned. But yeah, it's definitely an exponential thing, especially when you quit your job and you have free time to look into these other avenues, right?
So you got the $20,000 that's going to be coming in passively. I assume that's all going to be real estate for the most part. Yeah,
and that's kind of the next, I would say in the next 3 years, that's kind of the goal, is to get there. In the next 3 years, and then the whole getting into higher than that would be just buying more apartment buildings.
Okay. What about on the active side? What does that look like for you?
So I just became a full-time real estate agent, which is a new interesting concept because it seems like I'm busy all day, but not busy at all. So it's really like I can fit my life in between these pieces throughout the day. But yeah, I just became a full-time real estate agent in the Seattle area. And so I have every intention of growing my small business up to 20 grand a month, which out here is, you know, 1.5 houses a month that I have to sell after 6 months or something.
What kind of market are you in? What does the house price look like, and what would one sale do for you?
So out in my market, our average sale price is $775. It's not uncommon to get a few $1.5 million calls per week out here. And I mean, on $1.5 million, you're looking at a $45,000 commission, and after splits, it's about $22,000, which is great. And I mean, it's from a perspective of where I've been, it's so much easier to save and build on money when you get it in these large chunks. Because it's like if you're making 45 grand a month and you're trying to save 300 bucks a paycheck, one thing blows you out. But it's like you make 20 grand and it's like, all right, I need 5 and I'll throw 15 over here. It's like you do that a few times and now you're sitting on 45 grand and you can go buy something that actually has some good value to it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So we see how the real estate is playing heavily into this with your investing and becoming a real estate agent. Are there any other kind of side incomes that you're trying to grow to have a bigger piece of that pie? If you know, can you tell us about that at all?
Yeah, I've got a few things kind of on the back burner right now. I've got my TikTok going. TikTok is really awesome. I've made some decent money. I mean, I'm not, blowing anything out of the water or anything on there, but TikTok has been good. Instagram has been really good, mainly just for connecting with other people. And you would be blown away when you used to network, you have to go to all these events and everything. And now it's like, if you post on Instagram and there's 4 or 5 people that follow you and the other person knows them, like if I go to follow a new guy and I can see Ryan Panera or Ace is following them, I'm like, all right, well, this guy's legit. This is someone I'm going to actually talk to and engage with. And just growing your network on there has been really good. I am in the process of building I don't want to really call it a course. It's going to be more of a mentorship geared towards first-time investors or people who want a house hack or get into the 1 to kind of 4 unit building, something that I can do 100 times over, and something that can really help with. And so I'm kind of in the process of that. I don't know what's going to come of it or how much it'll cost or how much I'll make, but that's definitely on the back burner too.
So you've got a lot of different things to kind of go into that. I think we've all read, most millionaires have, 7 different income streams, right? So we've all got our, passive, semi-passive real estate investments, right? Our W-2s, and then a couple of these side incomes that are all coming in to kind of get to that ultimate goal of $40,000 a month, which is great. Do you have an idea of what that's going to look like in regards to net worth? Do you have a net worth goal that you're trying to reach? You have your monthly income goal. Is there a bar out there that you're trying to hit?
Not really. I mean, I know 10 million is obviously like, that's kind of a good bar to hit. 1 million, if I could hit 1 million, I mean, that would be my first bar. I think right now I was doing it earlier and I'm only, my net worth's like 405, but if we refinance the 24 unit and it's worth what we think it is, then it puts me up at like 630, which is great. I mean, I'm super stoked about it, but it would be like getting that first million through real estate would really kind of lend credibility to where I'm trying to go. And eventually getting to that $10 million net worth would be great. And I think that buying large apartment buildings and holding them, it would do that. But at the end of the day, I don't really put a whole lot of weight on net worth because I'm more in this for the lifestyle. And I mean, if you're making 40 grand a month and your net worth is 2 million, I mean, I'm not going to be upset. I mean, I'm hopefully be traveling a little bit is really kind of my ultimate goal, and living a nice lifestyle.
So what about syndication, for these big deals? Have you looked at that as a way to add to that income stream or be able to go after some of these larger deals? Is that a part of this as well?
Yeah, syndication is something I definitely want to get into. Right now I have two partners, and they both have enough money for us to continue until I think we get to a few hundred units. So right now it's just us 3 kind of going in on it. And right now we have a goal of getting 100 units by the end of this year, which is really aggressive. And to be more conservative, we're going to do it by 6 months into next year, which is super, super attainable, especially in the market we're in. And then we have a goal of growing by 100 units per year after that. And once we get to a point where we have shown that we know what we're doing, we're buying these 30, 40, 50 unit complexes, and then we can kind of bring in other people. We have every intention. I mean, I would love to take down, a 500 unit complex that's only trading at a 6 cap. It has a long-term value play, or the market's going up. And that's when numbers can really make a lot of sense. It goes up 20%, but 20% on 100 million or whatever is $20 million. So it would be cool. It would be cool.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm looking at too right now, JVing on deals with a couple of business partners, and then ultimately going to syndication down the road for some of those larger plays that I'm looking to get there. So I think James, you looking to try to do that as well, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Down the road, the biggest deal I've done so far has only been 5 units, and it's been a slam dunk deal so far.
Yeah,
and it's worked out great. But definitely down the road, I think that's an interesting route to go, because I've heard this time and time again from those who are in the space syndicating. That 5-unit deal is almost no more complicated than the 200-unit deal. There's more dollars and cents involved, but the processes are all the same. You got to take due diligence seriously, make sure you're dotting all your I's, crossing your T's, but fundamentally, it's the same motions. You're going through, you've got to find your money, got to find a good deal, got to crunch the numbers, you got to make sure what the seller is telling you is true. So definitely down the line, I mean, I think there's a lot of room for that in the future.
Exactly. And Chantz, so going from that 3-unit to that, large apartment deal, there was nothing in between, right? For all the listeners out there that think you kind of progress here. I mean, you went 3 units to 16.
Yeah. And I mean, back to what James was saying, that whole concept held true from 3 units to 24, all the same stuff, the same amount of work goes into it. And I mean, buying these 16 units, I wish it was 160 units, because it's taken so long and so much time that the amount of units doesn't change. It doesn't correspond to the extra amount of work you have to do. Right. But yeah, just jumping from that 3 unit to that 24 unit, I did take a class, and I had a mentor on the whole thing, and it was worth every penny. It was expensive, but it was kind of like I wrote it off as having a realtor help me buy my first house. And so if I was going to pay someone to help me get through, my largest investment ever, that's what I was going to do. And that's what I did. And it's worked out. Right.
What do you think holds back people from wanting to invest that money in themselves? Because I know a lot of people that I meet, even myself included, I become very apprehensive about investing that money, almost the trade-off of opportunity costs. Like, I can invest $3,000 into this mentorship, or I can maybe just invest it in this deal. Can you talk about the pros and cons of going ahead and investing that money in yourself, as opposed to, I don't want to call making the money conscious, maybe limiting belief decision?
Yeah, I would say it was fear, and it was fear of losing the most money I ever had in my entire life. And it was fear of putting $260,000 down on an apartment building that, my dad had only ever bought a triplex. And so it's like, he doesn't have experience in this. No realtor in my market is going to have experience in Midwest markets. And so I ended up paying a lot more for my mentorship. It was $30,000, and I'm actually still in it. And it is hands down one of the best decisions I've ever made. I mean, it broke me out into this new world of apartment buildings and just kind of going larger and getting something over $1 million. So it becomes a non-recourse loan. And just that whole concept, I mean, is forever going to change my life. And it was a good decision. I want to say that I definitely did my research, and I made sure what I was doing was legit. And I just talked to my mentor like a week ago. And I mean, we email and talk all the time, and he's closing 100-unit deals like they're no big deal. And it's just cool to see someone operating at this much higher level who is still just as relaxed and doing exactly what you are. There's just a higher unit count. And until you see someone do it who's like you, you just kind of have that limiting belief. So he kind of shattered that at the same time as well.
Well, you paid to get into the room with the people who are doing what you want to do. And that's hard to come by just organic conversation, going to your local RIA or just talking to people on the internet. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to make that risk on yourself to force that new mentality into your head. So that's very admirable. It's a tough thing to do. It's something that I have not done, and I'd find very intimidating to do myself. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I stay far away from super expensive courses now, unless they're something I can really get a lot of value out of. But all day I'll spend $1,500 on a little course if I'm trying to learn something.
Well, now you're ready to teach them yourself.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll go that route.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, especially for people out there that are just getting started. As a takeaway, is you definitely have to invest. If you don't have the money, the time, in scouring YouTube or finding any free resources or spending $20 on a book that talks about the things that you're looking for. I mean, I know myself personally, I probably have a stack of 30 to 40 real estate books that I've read over the last 7 years. So you really have to invest in yourself, and to get to where you're at, to get where James is at, myself, all of us, and most of the people that I know that are investing and doing it successfully have either spent the time or the money to educate themselves so they can make those big decisions when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and there are tons of free resources. I don't want to lead people astray that there's no other way, but I mean, Bigger Pockets, if you go there and you're into real estate and you listen to every single one of their episodes, you're going to see patterns emerge in all of them, and then you're going to be able to apply that. And I mean, I've listened to all of them. I mean, they've been great. And I mean, just other podcasts in general, the Michael Blanc Apartment Building and Investing podcast is exactly how I got into apartment buildings. And it's all about buying these, 20 to 200 unit apartment buildings, and it's sweet. So you just got to put yourself in the room or in the area where you can learn about the things that you want to do.
And most importantly, I went to one of Michael Blanc's events, and it was awesome. It was awesome. It was not just for the content, for the networking, for the people you meet, the potential partners. People go there because they have money. People go there because they have experience. People go there because they have time. And you never know who you're going to run into in these situations that would be an asset to you in your path. And you're going to find people, when you pay to be in the room with these people, they're going to have the same goals and desires. And you're going to weed out, all those distractions from other people. So when you said Michael Blanc, it really made me think back to my experience with it, and very powerful.
Yeah, I actually just got my financial freedom coin. It's back there.
Good for you, man.
And I turned on a podcast yesterday on my, I don't want to say Alexa. Hopefully she doesn't turn on, but I just listened to a podcast the other day, and it was his, and then he shouted me out on it in the beginning, and I was like, replay it. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome. So, you're on this path, and you got an incredible foresight laid out ahead of you. And of course, in anybody's journey, there's going to be obstacles. And part of that journey is maybe anticipating those financial obstacles as they pop up. What are some of those obstacles that you're kind of facing right now that are standing in between you and those passive income goals that you have?
The largest obstacle is probably the deals and finding deals that make sense. It's a lot harder to find deals that you want to jump on and can make a lot of money on. They're out there. The second obstacle would be, I don't even want to say money, because money at the beginning is a huge obstacle. But if you come to some investor and you tell him you can make him 8 to 10% cash on cash return, he's going to give you money. I mean, if you're a legit guy and you've done a few deals, I mean, you're going to have no problem getting money. So I would say the hardest part I've come across right now is finding deals that make sense, and maybe finding them in bulk, because we're feeling really aggressive right now and we want to close on a bunch.
You've thought about it a lot. How are you navigating that? Do you have a strategy in mind for maybe, finding those deals that are better suited for your investment purposes?
So it really comes down to niching down, finding your market, setting your team in place, your property managers, your contractors, all that, and then call every single broker in that market and let them know who you are and what you're trying to do, and give them a very specific idea of what you're looking for. And that's what we've done. And we've been coming across some deals that are too small, some that are really good but need full rehabs. And you just need to be top on mind. And this kind of comes to being a realtor too, is 90% of people are going to buy from a realtor that's in front of them when they want to buy. And so if you're reaching out to these brokers and they find a deal, but someone called, 2 days ago and you haven't called for 2 weeks, they're going to call that guy because he's fresh on their mind. So you just got to be on top of it. So I think it's once a week, I reach out to all the brokers in the market that I know. I'm like, hey, what's going on? I've even got some wholesalers out there. They tend to give me deals that are need a lot more rehab, but you just got to stay top of mind on the people that have the deals, which is the brokers in that area.
That's great. Have you done anything else, like have you actually flown out there to meet any of these guys? Sent out mailers, anything to kind of stand out, especially since you're investing out of state. That's kind of that has to be tough, because I know a lot of people are out there in your market or California that it's extremely expensive and want to invest out of state. Is there anything else that you're doing to try to, stay ahead of the curve?
Well, when I get a contract when I get a deal under contract, I definitely fly out there. I fly out there for the inspection. I make it a thing to walk every single unit, even if like the first 10 look good, you need to walk the rest of them. I've done a few mailers. I haven't really gone too far into that because that can get pretty expensive. And we've kind of had a good luck with the brokers we're dealing with. But yeah, that's really it. I mean, I go out there when I need to, and and when we are competing on these deals, we're not really competing with people in that market. A lot of times I'll find myself competing with people in Florida. We were just looking at a $5 million deal that was 96 units, and it was a team in Florida that was going to buy it. It's always tends to be someone on the coast that is looking out of state because their area is so expensive. And a lot of people in the Midwest don't realize. I didn't realize how cheap stuff was in the Midwest until I went there, because I'm like, everything where I am, condos are 500,000, right? Starting.
Yeah.
So tell me about the demographics. I meant to get into this a little earlier, but it kind of skated by. You hear people just fleeing New York, California, for New Jersey for potentially better jurisdictions, whether it's a tax reason or, it's just expensive as heck, or, now they're able to remote work and they can go, live somewhere that has all the other benefits that they're looking for. Tell me about the market where you're investing. Is there population growth? Is it growing? Is it kind of just consistent? What does the market look like as far as demographics?
So when I chose Illinois, our main issue we're having in Illinois right now is the taxes, because the state is bankrupt. But as far as like, I'm not in Chicago because I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know. But I'm not in Chicago. We're actually in Springfield, which is the capital. And the reason we chose that is because it's where all the government money is at. And so there's always these government jobs that are pulling people into Springfield. It's the capital of the state that the state's obviously going to continue to invest money in. They have projects going on there. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the people we employ are government workers. There's a college out there. There's a few hospitals. And so we're kind of in that market. Our long-term goal is to leave that market due to just the high taxes. But until we get to 100 units and sell as a package, we're going to continue to buy out there.
So that's the ultimate plan, is to get that 100 units and try to go after a bigger fish and parlay that into a more expensive market somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, we want to get to 100 units just because it sounds cool, but we want to kind of have a larger package and then sell them all as one to another investor, and then end up going out of state. We've looked in like Des Moines, in other areas, just with lower taxes. And if we can find the same deal we found and taxes are a lot lower than that, that's what we'll do. For sure.
Awesome. So I think we're coming towards the end here. We have this little segment that we're coming up with. We're still figuring out how to transition into this and like make up the really cool transition sounds, sirens or whatever, bombs going off. I don't know. So we'll keep it simple for now, but 3 questions. We'll alternate asking them. What would you say to the person who's just starting out? They're on the journey. They figured out, they've read Rich Dad Poor Dad or something, and they know that there's a life ahead of them that they would rather have, and they want to achieve something that gives them a little bit more freedom, time freedom, happiness freedom. What would you say to that person who's just getting started?
If you're just getting started in real estate, what I would say to anyone is to niche down and consume everything within your niche that you want. So if you want to get into real estate and you want a house hack, I would listen to the house hacking podcast, or I would read books on it, or maybe go more broad and listen to every Bigger Pockets episode. It's just really what you consume, you become. And I believe in that so much. And so if you're into real estate and you want to grow in it, just consume everything real estate related.
That's fantastic. So, you've brought up books and people. Is there, 1 or 2 specific books that really motivated you or changed your train of thought? Or any one person out there that people should go out and follow that's really helped you on your journey so far?
On my journey, without a doubt, is Bigger Pockets. I mean, they have to take all the credit for everything I've done, just because that's where I learned how to be a good, decent landlord and make some real money through solid, proven strategies. And the best thing about this field is you're really not reinventing a wheel. You're not doing anything new. You're doing a try and true method that has been done a million times before that you can just look and do. But if I were to recommend books, I mean, it all comes down. Rich Dad, Poor Dad for sure got me started. Everyone and their mom says that. But any book by Brandon Turner, who is the host of the Bigger Pockets, I would recommend. I have From Broke to Millions up on my shelf right here. And that is more on how to raise income, lower expenses, and make money through larger commercial buildings. I would definitely recommend that one too. And then maybe The Art of War. The Art of War is a great book as well.
So I just want to point out with Brandon Turner, like his authorship of books and the progression of it is incredible, from the content he was writing from his first book. I think it was like No or Low Money Down or whatever, to the book that I saw Patrick put on his Instagram today that he co-authored with Brian Murray, How to Kick Ass Big Commercial Buildings. And now he's doing the syndications and everything. So I think it's great that you point that out, Bigger Pockets. Like if you wanted a case study in destroying limiting beliefs and growing in real estate and achieving financial independence, like Brandon Turner's your guy for sure.
Yeah. And he's big in the trailer parks right now, or the mobile homes, I think is what they are. But
you got to call them mobile homes. Trailer parks is a negative connotation. No one
I
live in a trailer park.
Mobile home communities. Okay.
Exactly.
You gotta put communities in.
You gotta buy the trailer park and turn it into a mobile home.
Yeah,
community.
for sure.
Exactly.
So Chantz, where are you going to be on your journey in 5 years? I know we talked about your goals a little bit, but give us a specific painted picture of what Chantz's life looks like in 5 years.
So I hadn't thought about this until I read the question that you guys sent me on it. And really it comes down to, we want to do 100 units a year. And in 5 years, that would put us at 500 units. And then I thought about it more. And if we're doing 100 units a year, and for the next 3 years, we do 100, or the next two, by the third year, we're going to be like, why aren't we doing, 200 or 300 a year? Why are we staying at this low amount of 100? So, I mean, the minimum goal in 5 years is to be at 500 units. On the higher end, I mean, it just, we'll see what happens with the economy and where everything goes.
Sounds like you're making a goal to make bigger goals.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we'll have to have you back on and see if you hit that goal sometime in the next couple of years. Cool.
All right, guys. Yeah. And if anyone wants to reach out, you can definitely reach me. I have Instagram and TikTok, and it's at Investor Chantz, and Chantz is CHANTZ. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys again in the future.
Yeah, this is awesome. I really appreciate you coming out. I think people who are listening can take away a lot from listening to you and your experiences and how you've developed your plan to get where you're going on your financial independence journey. So really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Awesome guys.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from your TikToks and from your Instagram stories, and that's how we got connected. So everybody out there, go ahead, give them a follow, check them out on TikTok, and then make sure to come and follow me and my wife at the Rental Property Couple right there.
Thank you for listening to the Real FI podcast, where you learn from the investors that have lived the hard lessons for you. To connect with us during your pursuit of financial independence, be sure to join our community by following us on Instagram or emailing us at info@therealfi.com. If this content made you financially, mentally, physically, or spiritually richer, please make sure to leave us a positive review on your preferred content platform. Cheers to kicking the 9 to 5.